In this exercise, I'm trying to illustrate how we can work with the event binding. As you can see down here in the body, I have a div which says what's knockout, and then I have a div in here for the definition, and then you get the actual text. The div has an ID definition. Definition is up here, used within the style to give it a width and a height and a background color and a foreground color. Okay. Now I usually start with the actual function in here within the apply bindings and so on. Let's go ahead and go down here this time and start with the body and then go back to the actual view model. Okay, so this case, the div is tied to an event. I need to illustrate the mouse over and the mouse out event on that div. So I would use data bind equal, and in this case I'm going to use the event. As I said, that's the illustration today. So in this case, instead of just giving the actual event, there's two of them, right? There's the mouse over and there's the mouse out. So I'm going to use the curly braces to add them both. Here's the mouse over, and then I'm going to give it the actual function that's going to be called when that happens, and that will be show definition, and then comma, I'm going to illustrate here the mouse out case, and then also give it the actual function, which is going to be hide definition. Okay, so these are the two events that get triggered on this div here. Okay, it says what's knockout. That's a simple text. Go down here and let's see how we can work with the second div. It has the content. All what I need in this case is add some binding. This has an ID definition. I'm just going to bind in here the visibility. So sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not, right? So data bind equal, and I'm going to illustrate the visible property, and this is tied to the definition enabled. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. There's few things that are of interest here. I see show definition as a function that's triggered on mouse over. There is the hide definition event that's going to be triggered on mouse out. And then I have the definition enabled property that makes this one show or hide. So I need to have some type of Boolean value and a couple of functions that handle that for me. I'll go back to the document ready function and let's illustrate that. Var view model equals, and here's the body of the view model. KO dot apply bindings, and then I'm going to pass it the view model. All right, now we said we need a property for the Boolean value to show and hide, right? So that's, remember, it's down here, definition enabled. I'm going to grab that. Well, this is an observable property, isn't it? So we go ko dot observable, and then we give it the initial value of false. Now I'm going to use the two functions, show definition and hide definition. Show definition will be the first one. Put it here. This is associated with a function, parentheses, open, close, comma. Actually, in here I made a mistake because instead of semicolon, I should have a comma. All right, the second one is hide definition. And this is also going to be a function, parentheses, curly braces. So the skeleton is correct, right? Now let's go ahead in here and show and hide the actual definition. Show will show it, so I need to enable this guy and make him true. I would go and say this dot show the definition enabled, and again in here you have the tendency of saying equal true, but that's not how we work with observable properties in knockout. I will say parenthesis true because it works like a function call. And down here we say this dot definition enabled, give it the value false because I don't want it to show in this case. Let's go ahead and save. and then we have the definition. We have the actual first div bound with those events, the second div bound with the visibility, and now let's go ahead and run that. So it says, what is knockout? I hover over here and it says knockout is a JavaScript library and so on. I'm hovering over the div, right? Remember, we are handling the mouse over event for that div. Move out and then it's disappear. Show, hide, show, hide. Okay, all these are triggered by the event, because remember, what's knockout is the actual div. Down here, the div is actually bound to those two events. It's triggering those two functions. Once they are triggered, they actually turn the definition enabled on and off. That's how we can work with the event binding. Let's go ahead and continue with the rest of the exercises.